Hello, and welcome back to Arcturian Philosophy. I will begin again with an Arcturian greeting. Sortorteana Artortaena Ekotornone Kornanaia Karatornaiano Cortea Ke Tornonai Ekatornonai Se Kanaso. Today, what I will be discussing is what is mind control, at least modern mind control, how does it work? And this is based on personal experience. This is not something that I read on a website. This is based on my very personal experience. So this might be a long video because this is a very broad topic. Also, I will point out I'm wearing a new headpiece. This one I made, which is reptilian inspired. See, it's green and has an amethyst. They love amethysts because it represents the crown chakra, and they love an open crown chakra. It's something that they're obsessed with. And so I made it in the Arcturian style with the reptilian influence on there as a kind of alliance or peace-making kind of gesture. So now I will dive into the topic. I've identified about 4 stages or factors that play into mind control, 4 different phases basically that occur. This has to do with mind control attempted when you're an adult, not mind control from childhood. So this is describing someone who wasn't really mind controlled as a child, but then became a victim of it as an adult, and what that entails. At least for someone in a population like mine. The first phase that I identified is called the remote target phase, as I'm calling it. This is where your soul is a stream that comes through your body, and it's like a signal. This is where you become a remote target and you are remotely hacked into and can be downloaded with programming, which means automatic type gestures, speech patterns, different signals, basically reptilian programming. And that was something that they tried to do to me, and I was able to fight it off. They will also sometimes combine this with, that's what happened to me, possessing you with Lucifer possessing you, or buying your soul or stealing your soul. Sometimes that is associated with it because the buying and selling of souls goes right in with mind control. So we have all heard of, the phrases MK Ultra and Project Bluebird and Monarch, but they all kind of go into the same thing at this point. So when you're a remote target, what a person like that may look like is someone who is very disoriented. The way they hack into your signal, you can't think. You almost don't know up from down. It's very difficult to maintain your own sanity, and you may or may not be able to communicate what is happening to you. But I was able to sustain or survive this kind of remote target attack. And so when that doesn't work, I've noticed they move to something I've called it the oppression phase. The oppression phase is where basically you become harassed day and night. This can be harassment by reptilians. This can be harassment by people wearing black. Things might get thrown at you. Things might be done to your food and water. Things might be done to your airspace. Certain strange conditioning types of things may be done to you where you're given a cue and then something happens as a response. For example, what they were doing to me is every time I would see a delivery truck, it was a sick joke that every time I would see a delivery truck, I would get delivered some kind of horrible thing. And so I became afraid of delivery trucks, basically. So they will do things like that. One person said they did that to me, but with white vans. You become harassed completely day and night. You might get exposed to biological warfare. It might not be that intense, but that was what happened to me. After that, what they will do is they will attempt to handle you, and I've termed a third phase the possession phase. They attempt to possess you, or an entity, usually a reptilian, tries to supplant their consciousness over your own. So to hack into your soul stream and overwhelm your quantum field with their own and make you a little copy of themselves, like an extension of themselves, to force their likes and dislikes on you, force their mannerisms on you, force themselves on you. People would walk around and talk to me as if I was a different person because they were talking to me as if I was the handler, but it never worked on me. In some instances where I saw this did work, people would walk around kind of like biological robots where something else would dictate what they would do. It seems like reptilians are the most common handlers, and then if you prove to be very pesky or unable to control, like me, they will escalate to gray type handlers, or this gets kind of scary, Pleiadian handlers, Andromedan handlers, and Arcturian handlers, and I'm sure other star beings as well, who have somehow gotten sucked into the dark system, whether willingly or unwillingly. So the possession phase also may involve, like I said before, Lucifer, which is where it's as if you're possessed by Satan or the devil. Back at my old apartment complex, the gardener looked at me, and I'd known this person. I had their phone number. And after the attacks, after everyone was attacked, he looked at me and said, "Do you know who I am, Cristal?" Because he couldn't say my name straight. "Do you know who I am, Cristal? I am the devil, and I am coming to get you." And this was a guy who I had known for like a year as the head gardener or construction worker. And I'm thinking, okay, something's happened here. You think you're the devil. All right. It seems like the way the Luciferian possession occurs, the Lucifer character wants to absorb everything into himself. So that everyone is like a little copy of himself, or that there's all this one hive mind and that he is the God, and that he'll sell you on the idea that you become God by selling out to him, but really you become totally powerless by selling out to him, is the trick. So there's that possession phase or handlers. Then the final phase I've noticed I've called the confinement phase. It seems like this happens no matter what, that at some point you become confined. The lowest levels of confinement I've found are psychiatric units, then escalating to jails and prisons, and then escalating to military bases and extraterrestrial starships. I have been to almost all of those places, and it's not fun. For someone who is resistant, they try to confine you quite a bit because they want to try to condition you to accept the system. But I simply would not, and would continue to assert my own will against the mind control that was attempted to be enacted upon me. So, as far as the confinement, psychiatric units are the lowest level I found of the confinement, and they are set up like Skinner boxes where different things will be done to you to attempt to elicit a certain response. It's classical conditioning in psychology. And also what goes along with this, with confinement, I was MILAB'd, or military abduction. I was MILAB'd for 4 hours and given a neural implant. All I know is that the military took me and that I was in a base, but I don't know anything else other than that. I don't remember anything else. And it took up to a week, I think, maybe 4 days, 4 or 5 days to stop the implant from working. You can actually stop these things from working in your body by raising your frequency using different techniques. But implants are also used to help facilitate mind control. Some people are more susceptible to mind control than others. Also, this has to do with how much, fluoride and chemicals you've consumed that make you docile, how much TV you've been watching, how likely you are to believe what the government tells you versus looking at the facts and seeing the truth. What I noticed was that a lot of the entities were very surprised at how resistant I was to the mind control. It wasn't until I got to the higher levels of confinement that they appeared to be used to seeing people like me. That was where I really hit up against a wall, where I got to the higher echelons of being confined when I was in a military psychiatric ward. Then that was very tough to get around the controlling influences. I was being remotely influenced, and different doctors who decided that they wanted to be on my side would do things or make hand motions to try to tell me we're all being recorded right now, we're all being taped right now, there's audio, we're all being kind of on a remote, we're all on a remote control, we're controlling you in a remote kind of fashion, we're controlling your body, your organs and health in a remote kind of fashion, using very advanced technology. They tried to communicate those things to me, And it in that scenario, it was very, very hard to resist the different influences. Um, but for the most part, they finally ended up leaving me alone because my will to get out of the institution was so strong that um, I it took a month, but I had to end up getting out because my will was focused so much on that, and I'm a master manifester, so I can do things like that. Um, as far as other things involving mind control, there are certain different programs that they run. One is called the Spider-Man program, where they make you kind of think that you're Spider-Man, and it's designed for spies. Um, there's also the famous kitten thing. They tried to do that to me, and I did not react very well, so they dropped that. um, the kitten thing, the assassin programming. I already went over kitten is sex slave programming. Um, then spy, which is kind of like the Spider-Man type thing. There was also an ant program that I found out about when I was in the last very high level institution. Oh, what else? They basically they try to run these different programs on you, and they do this in a mental kind of way where you experience mental imagery of a scenario occurring. And for people that go out of body very easily, they get harassed a lot this way. And I know this is one advantage that I have, not being able to go out of body very easily, that I can't be pulled into that kind of harassment very easily, or pulled out of my body very easily. They also have what are called, what Josie, the reptilian from the FBI, told me was that there are controllers, there are reptilians that will control large areas. The Men in Black also do this, where they showed up in my apartment complex in the parking lot. I walked past their like black car, this shiny black car, and I just didn't look. I was like too too intimidated to look, and they will sometimes use frequency to control large areas, and some people seem to just fall right into a trance, as if just they're no longer there and they're a robot. Then there are other people like me that are very resistant to the programming, the attempts at mind control, and it seems to just depend on what you've gone through in life, if you were exposed to it very much as a child, if you are a starseed of some type. Arcturians are very resistant, for the most part. Some teachers, maybe not so much, but for the most part, Arcturians tend to be very resistant to programming. There is also the electroshock programming that you've probably heard of, but the mind control that I have experience with is of a remote kind of nature, and it is actually very powerful. So that's something that we all need to be aware of. I've heard people say that it's called being droned, when you're just kind of taken over like a robot by a reptilian, by some sort of handler, by Lucifer, by whatever, that it's like, that it's called being droned. So this pretty much sums up what I've experienced with mind control. The way it appears to work for the most part is hacking into your soul stream signal, and what that can do, and what the implants can do, is confuse messages from your soul stream, not change them. So you can't truly be controlled. You can be influenced to think in a certain way, but the soul stream is still that which is doing the thinking for you. So there's no way to affect that. You can't get to that. Even for someone that's, quote, sold their soul, they can get it back in an instant, or dissolve whatever contract they had made in an instant, as long as they are very serious about it. So this is some of my experience with mind control. I hope you found this helpful, and feel free to ask me any questions that you have about it, because I have experienced quite a bit of it. What was one thing that was done to me was they will switch out handlers on you. If they can't control you with one handler, they will switch out people, switch out reptilians, switch out other star beings, switch out humans to control you, and it's just totally exhausting. They just keep switching them out to see if someone can control you. Sometimes they will put several of them on you at a time. At one point I had 3 of them on me at a time, and so now I'm having to stop smoking and stop opiates, because the pressure from that level of influence was too much for me, and I was influenced in a negative way by that, but ultimately was able to push all of it away from me. So with that, I will close this episode of Arcturian Philosophy with, again, an Arcturian closing. Shortai no cornea, arna sorne cortea, arna torne cornona, aka tornea sona, carna no okotea, e ki tornonai, na ka tornsea na kona. Thank you for watching, and please donate. I really need it. I need to make car payments, because I was able to get a car, but it's financed. So please donate. You can donate to me by going to PayPal and donating to the email address arcturianphilosophy@gmail.com. It's the same as my channel name, arcturianphilosophy@gmail.com. You can also reach me on that email address. So please donate, or please send crystals, or crystals would be really great, but anything that you think I might be able to use, or anything that you're not wanting, that I might be able to use, old jewelry or trinkets or things like that. Um, so I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for everyone's support. I really love all of you guys. And so I will say goodbye and blessings to you all.